Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the CoinGeek Weekly Livestream, and I am your host, Mr. Kurt Wuckert Jr., broadcasting live from currently sunny, but now we are entering a tropical storm season here in South Florida, where every day it's going to storm for about an hour, and then the birds come back out, and it's wonderful again. But we had a tornado touchdown in not exactly my town, but one town over yesterday where my producer lives, and it's been the talk of the town. So I know a lot of people that live in Boca Raton, Florida, and a lot of them were like, well, my missing trees and patio furniture has gone completely missing and that kind of thing. Luckily, I don't think anybody was actually seriously hurt, but the property damage was significant. So sending prayers to the to the lawn furniture of the fine folks at Boca Raton, Florida. If you could like, subscribe, hit the alert bell, let our digital overlords know that you do indeed want to consume my content and all the content from CoinGeek here, where we broadcast about the news and views of the day, coverage of the blockchain space, and a little bit of tech in general. You can see the killer videos from Becky Legiro and some of the other folks who watch the show. I'm giving Becky the call out because she likes to send me these nice little DMs and let me know how much she appreciates my content. So I'm letting you know, Becky, I also appreciate your content. And anybody who subscribes to me and watches my stuff should also follow Becky. She knows what she's doing. She's been covering the blockchain space for the better part of the last, 6 or 7 years. And then she has been a correspondent in the gaming industry since forever, I think. So she's one of the best people. So please follow Becky and give her some shout outs the way she gives me shout outs. And we'll all be better for it. I also want to thank our sponsors, Rock Wallet, the perennial sponsor here of the CoinGeek Weekly Livestream. Rock Wallet is a fantastic non-custodial wallet that allows you to do a little bit of exchanging inside the wallet if you're willing to share a little bit of data with them. They pass your basic KYC AML and allows you to trade between your Bitcoin SV, your Bitcoin Core, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, and a few stablecoins, including the new money stablecoin, the native BSV stablecoin that requires no gas, just like everybody's favorite car company, Tesla. And then we got a whole bunch of other stuff going on. I've got some very cool news. We're going to have to bring on our otherworldly TCG folks for an interview sometime in the next little bit. They've got a whole bunch of stuff cooking in the kitchen. And I shouldn't share anything because it should be up to them to share their own news. But if they'd like to share the news on the CoinGeek Weekly Livestream, we'd love to have them. They are also a longtime sponsor of the show. One person every episode will receive an entire Otherworldly card pack from the folks from Otherworldly TCG. So thank you, Otherworldly, for your sponsorship. For you, if you're watching the show and you are in no way affiliated with anything except the fact that you like me and you like the content, again, thank you. I appreciate you. You are at least as good, just not monetarily, as our sponsors. So please tell your friends. If you could fill the troll box, any of the questions that you have, we are going to have Mr. Hlynur Thor Bjornsson here on the show. I probably did okay with my pronunciation, but no guarantees. But the Icelandic pronunciations of things are a little bit outside my basic skill set, but I can practice, and this is one of those opportunities. So if you have questions about Orange Gateway, how it works, especially if you have any experience in finance or exchanging, liquidity, those kind of things, I think it'd be good to ask some of the questions that you have about the exchange. I'm pretty excited about the product and some of the news going on. So we'll have Thor on shortly here. And also, if you could read my article, I have a pinned post on X, and I talk a little bit about the imperative of actually doing something important with Bitcoin. If nobody does anything important with Bitcoin, it's going to go away, and we're all going to be worse for it. But I write about a bunch of the existential crises and some of the very practical and very real risks of not using Bitcoin for anything that matters. And some of them are dire indeed. So please check my pinned post. Please read the article. Please share it. And I would love your comments as well. When you comment, that lets the overlords over at X know that maybe my content is half decent, and then it'll push it up the algorithm so more people will read my content. And I think that's better for all of us. Isn't that better for all of us? I'd like to think so. So anyways, we are going to cut to the ad from Rock Wallet. Help us pay a little bit of the bills here. And then we will be back with Hlynur Thor Bjornsson. We'll be right back. Hello, sir. Okay, first, what is the correct pronunciation of the name? Was I pretty close?
You were pretty close. It's Hlynur Thor Bjornsson.
All right. That's I will practice off air. We'll get it. We're going to nail it next time you're on when we talk about how you've broken $1 billion in quarterly revenues or something over at Orange Gateway. How are you doing?
I'm very good. Sunny day in Iceland. We are 12 degrees Celsius, so everyone is outside tanning.
Sounds delightful. Every time I picture Iceland, I think of three things. I watched a documentary once about a Bitcoin mining operation way out in the middle of nowhere, and it looked awesome. I think about the Blue Lagoon vacation pictures that I've seen on various travel shows, and then I picture Ben Stiller in the Walter Mitty movie doing the longboard, which I think might be one of my favorite pieces of cinema ever. Just the way it's shot makes Iceland look like the absolute coolest place on earth. So how accurate are those? Is this what all of Iceland looks like, or do you live somewhere more boring?
I live in a small town outside of Reykjavik, but I think the nature is beautiful here. Or we are obviously very used to it, but for people coming from other locations, they see the lava, they see there's a lot of different kind of elements in our nature that's not, there are almost no trees.
Sure.
but so it's kind of striking. People sometimes feel like they're on the moon, and
it does. It almost has an otherworldly quality to it. I think that's why it stands out when you picture Iceland. It's like you could shoot a movie as if you were on an alien planet or something, and it's fascinating. So. Other than the unique climate and geological aspects, Iceland is also quite an interesting place from a regulatory standpoint, and banking and all of these things. Partially, you have quite a small population, so it's a little easier to make a deal with the people in charge. But why Iceland for Bitcoin-based business, and why actually might people consider starting their company or domiciling their company in a place like Iceland?
Well, obviously we started here because we live here, or me and a couple of friends, we were kind of licking our wounds after the financial collapse that happened in 2009. I was reading, the white paper, I think early 2010, and me and a couple of friends, we could not buy Bitcoin because after the financial collapse, they put on currency controls, and so you could either mine it or try to trade it with someone else. And there were a lot of miners in Iceland. So we kind of spun up a little company and started buying Bitcoin from them. And that's early 2013, 2014.
Sure.
And then things just evolved, and I'm still just running that same company. But now we changed our name when we decided to pivot for BSV and go kind of international, not just servicing Icelandic miners. So Orange Gateway became the name, and here we are trying to gather all the BSVs out there to trade on our platform and win the world eventually.
Now, amen to that. And this has been a major pain point. There's a little bit of a cultural split in the BSV ethos. You get the people who Binance delist and OKX delist or whoever, and there's hooray, like we've made it. Like the bad guys are kicking themselves out of the revolution or something like that. And then you get the people who are like, this is not good for volume and liquidity and some of these other things that we actually need for our business. And as somebody who's in the business of mining BSV and in the United States, like that's been a huge problem for us to be able to, even just make swaps and stuff for clientele. We're like, hey, can we pay you in BSV? And, it's like, yeah, for a certain amount, sure. But ultimately, like Bitmain or whoever, they want USDT Tether or BTC as payment. And so, to move $100,000 worth of BSV around, is fine if everybody accepts BSV, but the fact that nobody can convert it in U.S. jurisdiction has been, that's been a big sticking point for us. So, So I guess my first thought is to say thank you for providing a spot for liquidity and for simplicity. Um, why the pairs that you have? So you have a very small set of pairs. I think you have BSV,
Yeah.
BTC, Ethereum, and USDC, if I recall.
Yep.
Now that's in stark contrast to, Coinbase used to be Bitcoin only. They probably have 150 pairs, and essentially everybody will trade anything that will trade, right? But why keep it tight? What's your thought process there?
We just want to kind of be true to the BSV vision. We don't really want to trade all of these different coins. I think going forward, our focus will rather be to help trading of real world assets that are tokenized. And that's just our goal, to kind of stay true to Bitcoin. And obviously we have BTC there also, and Ethereum, but that's mostly just to, those are the big liquid coins.
Right.
And we're trying to suck liquidity in, obviously, and help people exchange those coins for the real Bitcoin.
Sure. Well, and that's the interesting thing, right? Is if you get people that are, quote unquote, stuck in something like Litecoin or, whatever, and they want to switch over to BSV, like there's not a real practical way to do that in a lot of places. So I think that could be one argument for having more trading pairs against BSV, but ultimately, like, who's going to be trading on a order book that is like Litecoin BSV? That's probably 50 people on Earth or something, right?
Yeah.
So
we might consider that, though, adding if there are other kind of very liquid pairs that would trade against BSV, we would kind of consider that.
Yeah.
But in reality, our biggest focus is not the crypto to crypto trading. It is being a on and off ramp. We are fully regulatory compliant. We have I think a 10-year-old banking relationship where there's a lot of trust, I think, on both parties, and we are kind of utilizing that. We can accept international payments, both in dollars, euros, and now recently British pounds also.
Nice.
And so if your bank can send a SWIFT international wire, or in the Eurozone a SEPA transfer, we can accept it. And we can also allow you to withdraw fiat into your bank account. So that is kind of our main focus. And now, just what was it, last week, we also added credit cards options so that you can now buy Bitcoin with credit cards.
Oh, that's incredible. What is that process like? I know a lot of people have attempted to do it, and they're no problem, it'll be 6 weeks, and then turns into 3 months, and then it turns into we've been blacklisted by everybody, it's just not going to happen. Why is that so difficult, and how are you able to accomplish it?
I think one part is we are regulated. That kind of, if you're just a normal crypto company and you sign up with a credit card company, they just flag you, okay, they don't really want to facilitate anyone trading crypto, essentially. But we are kind of fully licensed, and we do full KYC and so on. Another thing is maybe that Iceland being this tiny country, and I've worked for both of the credit card companies in Iceland, so I know the people. There's trust, and just a phone call away, we can have a chat and go over things, and so with the credit card company that we signed up, I used to be kind of head of financial risk for them for 5 years in the past. And
so they know you're not a random crypto scammer, so that definitely helps.
I think that helps to have that kind of personal connections, and in a small community like Iceland, where everyone knows everyone, people can actually ask, who is this guy? Well, he used to work here.
So no, that's great. So when people there is a threshold for KYC, and I've had very mixed feelings about KYC for a long time. I think on the one hand, it's a little bit predatory from a privacy standpoint, but I do understand that, you know, you have actual criminals that are, you know, running human trafficking operations, and like I understand that attempt to track that kind of thing. But then on the flip side, it also creates a huge security problem that has, you know, some of the biggest companies in the world have failed, and they have lost company data, leading to all kinds of, you know, identity theft and lots of the spillover problems. What is your threshold right now for not needing to participate in KYC?
Yep.
And then what is your KYC process if you wanted to do like $1,000 a day or something?
Yeah. So the threshold is $1,000 per month.
Okay.
That we do not have to take you through full KYC and all of that. Mm-hmm. And that actually came, you know, I heard people in the space complain about this. And, you know, I've signed up on many of these exchange platforms in the past, and I know it takes an hour to get all the documents, answer all the questions and so on. And for people that are just interested in buying $10, $100, you know, of Bitcoin to top up a game or using an app, we kind of brought this conversation just to our regulator. And again, Iceland is so small, and I just called up my colleagues at the Central Bank of Iceland. We kind of went over the you know, what the purpose was, and there is part of the EU legislations that if a person is just transacting under 1,000, I think it's 1,000 euros, you don't have to do a full KYC and so on. Nice. But you need the person's name, first name, last name, and their country. And that kind of fits exactly with the details that you need when you're doing a credit card transaction.
Right.
And so that is what we kind of went for, is, you know, allowing people that are just casually buying small amounts to skip KYC if it's under these limits. And we have obviously in our backend limits on what you can do on our platform. And so we can control it. And this is only for you to buy BSV. You cannot use the same mechanic, you know, to sell BSV. Then you unfortunately have to go through the KYC process and all of that.
Okay.
But yeah, so that was kind of what kind of led to it, and how this is a solution if it's limited to very small casual payments. That's which is what Bitcoin is for.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. The Federal Reserve never takes my calls, so I'm not able to have. Yeah, they don't appreciate my questions. It seems, but so it's funny you bring up the selling part of it too, and I think you know, your site looks like a classic trading platform in that you have obvious, you know, candle charts and order books, and you can kind of see the liquidity on both sides, and you're buy and sell walls and that kind of thing. Do you have people that seem to day trade? Can you follow that kind of activity? Does that look like something that people want to use Orange Gateway for, or are they mostly just using it for on-ramp, off-ramp, and take off?
We have seen more and more people stacking up our order book. Obviously, we are, you know, a very young exchange platform, and we are building our client base. But we are always seeing more and more people filling our order book, placing their orders for kind of longer horizons, sell at a higher price or buy at a lower price than current. And so the day trading has been kind of increasing, but I think 90% of our trades are on and off ramp. People depositing, buying, and withdrawing their coins, or the other way, depositing, selling, and withdrawing to bank accounts. And you know, we kind of plan on building that. Obviously, we welcome the day trading and so on, but it kind of has to kind of come slowly with the people that kind of are traders rather than investors or
No, that's well, and I think that brings up an interesting point about like streaming liquidity and market makers and some of the other things. Like, I think people, myself included, like from the deep mechanics of how much is your exchange creating liquidity versus, you know, if you get somebody at a certain point that is too good at trading, for example, all of a sudden it's like, okay, hey, we need to like call, call somebody to help this guy withdraw, 10,000 coins or whatever it's going to be. What is the push and pull on like what you actually have in reserve versus what you have in a hot wallet versus what you need a streaming liquidity or market maker to help you settle?
So we always have full reserves for all client money. But from our company standpoint, we had to start market making ourselves. And what we did, we signed a third-party market maker. We gave them our own equity, our own money, and they are trading as a third party, so that we do not operate the order book. But it's funded initially by us. But we are really looking for more, sophisticated players to kind of take that role. And ideally, we would only be handling, deposits, withdrawals, and safeguarding the trading and so on. But BSV has had liquidity issues. And on our platform, we've had liquidity issues. We've seen huge wicks where people are trying to buy more than is available at that time period or is visible on the order book. And unfortunately for those people that just do a big market order, hopefully we'll get more market makers to join our platform and kind of build up a trusted exchange with us,
right?
Because we only do so much ourselves, but if we can kind of get the whole community to focus their trading on our platform, the liquidity will get better, and hopefully we can then also reduce our fees when the volume kind of starts picking up. And but this is kind of chicken and egg. It had to start somewhere, so that's how we roll.
No, it's good, and it's an honestly good product too. I mean, it's simple. It doesn't, like, you don't open it up and say, oh wow, this is the future, but it's ultimately just a useful tool that has been sorely needed. So so some of the other things, one of the big conversations in BSV for years now has been token protocols and various things. So like there's Swiss francs on the Stas protocol with Centi, or there's money using the one set ordinals protocol, the new stablecoin by Rock Wallet. And so there's some infrastructure needs, and then ultimately, in theory, you could be providing access to some of these various tokens. I'm curious what your roadmap looks like. Do you have specific plans to support anything in particular, or how are those decisions made?
I just decided. Just like that.
Perfect. Love it.
But I follow the Stas guys a lot, and I've seen what they've been doing, and also when the Rock Wallet people opened up the money token on one set ordinals, we are honestly kind of looking for, hey, how is it easiest for us to integrate all of these different protocols into our backend, and we are just honestly looking for a good way to do that, and we'd love to onboard these different BSV tokens that represent some real assets like money is the dollar, and Centi, aren't they doing the Swiss franc there?
It's Swiss franc, yeah,
that would be great. But at the moment that this is, we've told our developers this is something we should be aiming for, but we are not there yet, and we're a small company with a little team, and need kind of funding or let the platform roll for a couple of months, and we are kind of pooling all the resources that we get in developing our platform.
Sure.
further.
The Gorilla Pool team, of which I'm the guy that gets to make the decisions like you do at Orange Gateway. I get to make over at Gorilla Pool. So if you'd like to have a chat offline, we host a lot of the infrastructure for OneSat in general. So we'd be very happy to help you with the integration. Yeah, it'd be pretty straightforward. It should be easy actually.
We've had conversation with the money people, and I think they are waiting to get licensed in Europe. It's a European legislation it's called MiCA.
Yeah, I know the MiCA stuff is pretty strict. Yeah.
But this is exactly what we want, because it has the biggest stablecoin out there, Tether.
Yeah.
People have wondered for many, many years, are there real dollars on a bank account somewhere in some country? What are they out of the Bahamas or?
I think so.
Tether company.
Yeah.
And I don't think any bank in the Bahamas has, $100 billion.
Yeah, probably not.
And recently we've heard that they own so and so many government bonds, which is great if that's true, because I really want them to be honest. But this is what the MiCA license is kind of forcing stablecoin issuers to do, is to show their books. They have to be audited so that the people kind of can't trust, they actually have dollars behind $1 money token. So I think this is the future, or it will bring a lot of trust into stablecoins if this is kind of the general state of things.
It's an interesting thing. I've looked into Tether since, I don't even know, 2016 or something, when they started to really pop up.
Yeah.
And I think they probably intended to start as an honest business, but they realized, much like your commercial banks, that there's just not that much money in sitting on the money. So very quickly it starts to become fractional. And I've seen some reports that say it's as low as 2% actual cash reserves, and that everything else is various, yes, treasury bonds and things that are, safe assets, but also undisclosed amounts of crypto and, other stuff that's bundled up. And, so it's your Tether is backed by BTC. It's, it starts to become this recursive nightmare.
What happens if you see, we've seen drops on BTC throughout the years, maybe 70% drops.
Yeah.
What if that happens tomorrow? And Tether will have to sell BTC to cover Tether,
Right.
It will be kind of strange. But if you kind of noticed, we do not support Tether on our platform.
Right.
For the same reason as we are kind of waiting for the money token. Tether is not MiCA compliant, and we are waiting for money to become MiCA compliant so that we can add it to our platform.
That makes sense.
I think that would be very good for kind of interoperability for all kinds of apps on the BSV ecosystem. So it would be beautiful to see that come online.
I've heard more than a few whispers about various apps that are really excited about the money token, simply because you can send a single penny, and I don't think you can do that on any other stablecoin, even across all the other quote unquote cheap blockchains and stuff, because of the gas fees. The gas fee is an inherent other cost that is bundled into it that just doesn't exist on or for money because it's on BSV, but I think money is going to end up getting a lot of volume based on the really just 4 or 5 ideas that I've heard are the kind of ideas that could be, thousands of transactions an hour just because they're useful. So could be a really big thing.
Yeah. But talking about that, other apps that need obviously, tradable token and so on. We are actually thinking about expanding our new credit card integration. And we can partner up with apps in the ecosystem, and kind of post our iframe into an app that you're running.
Makes
and
sense.
So essentially, the customer of that app is buying BSV, and the BSV would then be transferred to that app for whatever usage. So I hope that our developing team is actually working on this, and hope they will give us a green light in a couple of days that we can actually offer a service like this.
Sure.
But for everything else, then hopefully money will help those apps.
For sure. We get a question from Eric Belinsky, who's a very loyal watcher of the show, asking, is there going to be an Orange Gateway app in the future? Yeah. So, download on my iPhone, and I'm sitting on the subway, and I need more coins, man.
That's the plan. We are prioritizing, where we are allocating our funds now, and we have a couple of integrations that we are looking into, but an app is obviously very high on the radar, and it might be the next app or next integration or that we add. We've also been kind of looking at creating a futures market. I don't know if people want to be trading BSV on such a high level, with the leverage and so on. That's something we've been looking into.
I think probably.
Still, there's always a lot of people that have they like the gamble and so on.
Yep. So on the other side of things, so talking about apps and talking about some of the stuff, Apple Pay specifically, I think Apple Pay is, on the one hand, really, really cool. I use Apple Pay everywhere. Essentially, anytime I shop, I prefer to use Apple Pay. I also kind of hate Apple Pay in that it took away a little bit of the magic that I think Bitcoin was intended to show the world. Like, hey, man, instant payments, person to person, like it's right on your phone. So it's always a little bit begrudging that it's such a good product for payments. But what does Apple Pay integration look like at Orange Gateway? Because as far as I'm aware, I've only ever seen it on maybe 2 or 3 other places. I think I've used Apple Pay on Exodus once or twice, and maybe one other wallet, but it's been a long time. So how does it work? Like, do you have to do anything special on your end to make that work? Walk us through the Apple Pay part of your experience, if you can.
This is really, this is what our credit card company integrates with us, and it kind of comes baked in the cake.
Nice.
We have to kind of authenticate our business and so on for Apple. Google Pay doesn't really require that.
Yep.
The only issue now, since we don't have a native Apple app, which hopefully comes later on. So the Apple Pay only becomes visible for you if you're using a Mac or an iPhone. When you log into Orange Gateway, then you will see Apple Pay when you go through the credit card thing. But if you're on a Windows machine, you will only see Google Pay.
Okay.
But this is just part of how our credit card service provider, they kind of integrate Apple Pay, Google Pay, everything in one package.
It's really great.
So it wasn't such a hassle then just to authenticate our business and so on. But
nice. No, that's cool. And I'm guessing if you were to offer like that iframe service to other apps, that would also be one of those things that carries forward for clients.
It would essentially just be the credit card window, probably a window before where you place in your name, for first name, last name, and your country, and then you will be hit with the kind of normal Apple Pay, Google Pay, or credit card detail window.
That's awesome.
That's kind of the plan to make this available for as many players in the BSV economy that would like to partner up with us and get easy. It's not full credit card integration.
Yeah,
the customer is buying crypto on our platform, but it happens natively in the other app.
Yep. No, it's I mean it's good enough. I think for the kind of people that are wanting to play with crypto stuff anywhere, in an app, they're going to be used to jumping through one extra hoop in order to make that work. So pretty cool. What else is going on in the background? I know you've got there's plenty to work on, and I'm a little bit ignorant. Aside from being a customer, I'm very ignorant to how the business part of running an exchange works. Like, what else is going on? I mean, you have to have like CFO and compliance people and security people, or like what might be happening, in the background that might be surprising to somebody that isn't part of your operation.
I think most of our work is on the KYC front. There is some treasury management, obviously, and then compliance with the regulators and so on. We have to I think that if you go over 14,000 euros, we actually have to ask you, what's the origins of the funds you're trading, and there's a little kind of, something that you cannot really outsource, and so we do that here. Obviously, our developers are building our platform, integrating solutions, and so on, and there's project management around that. But this is probably what most people would guess. I don't think there's any magic other than treasury management and project management.
Sure, it makes sense.
That's like every other business kind of needs. Yeah,
for sure. What are your thoughts on, I think real world asset tokens are going to be a big deal. And I know there's a couple of people in the BSV space. I think the first guy talking about it in a big way was Garrett Krause. And then he had a bit of a shakeup, and now there's a couple of people talking about it that kind of split out of those conversations. But like, what would you think of trading things like rare earth minerals or oil or gold or those kind of things? Would that be something you'd be interested in integrating?
I think we would really like that. Instead of going for the 1,000 different crypto coins, I think we would rather go down the path of 1,000 different real world assets. And we've talked about this with our kind of development team. If we were building this, and I told them there was no fish market in Iceland. We should obviously we have a lot of our income from fisheries, and so I told them there's a stock market and there's a really outdated kind of manual fish market, and we should tokenize fish and create a market for it. And anyway, but this is what people, real business, might be interested in. Hey, there's no real way to trade our product. That might be just a commodity. So, that might be interesting.
Well, and talking about, you mentioned futures a couple minutes ago too. I mean, that's actually a very useful thing. If you have a bad fishing year, you're going to hope you had options out on your salmon or whatever, so you could actually create a market that's totally needed. Where would that even be done? As an American, I just think of like, the New York Stock Exchange, that's where you would do it. But if you're in a place like Iceland, where would you go to try to trade fish futures? Is that something that is done at all, or?
It's not.
Interesting.
So that's where these conversations kind of, when I said, real world assets, I was first thinking about, gold tokens or something. But then other people, no, what about fish? Or what about, whatever other commodity that is traded out there. So, but that would be very interesting to, list various real world assets and build up a market for each and every one of them, and ideally then have a futures market of them, for all of those tokens or some of those tokens also.
Right.
The most liquid ones. That would be really interesting.
Very interesting. I think if I recall, and I may be remembering this wrong, is that there's also, I think it's aluminum. It's refined aluminum is big in Iceland. Or it's some metal that is pretty big that gets exported out of. Is it aluminum?
Yep, it's aluminum.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I remembered well. So like something like that could also potentially be, it reminds me of like orange juice in the United States. Like I think 30 years ago, they actually traded real frozen orange juice as a commodity. Now it's super, it's been phased out as an actual, it's like a bundled asset of all citrus markets or something. But it reminds me of how something can start as weird and as simple as a frozen orange juice brick in these little, specific can-shaped things, but then grow the sophistication of the market such that it, becomes a multi-billion-dollar global thing. So is aluminum, like potentially, would there be a way to commoditize that and give futures options and, that kind of thing too?
Yeah. Obviously, aluminum is traded worldwide on futures markets, but they don't tokenize it. So that would be very interesting. Yeah. Aluminum is big in Iceland. We have, it's rains so much in Iceland. So we have a lot of waterfalls and so on.
Yeah.
And almost everywhere is free energy or very cheap energy.
Yeah.
So they built a lot of aluminum smelters in Iceland.
Okay.
And I think about, a third of our gross domestic product is export of aluminum.
Oh, wow. It's that much.
Yeah.
It's funny. I grew up in Chicago, and just to the east of Chicago is where a lot of that raw material comes from. The Indiana border right there, right on Lake Michigan. If you drive out of Chicago, you could drive for an hour and just see like refinery. And it's just like endless, like terrible looking. It doesn't even look real. It looks like post-apocalyptic kind of place where people would work. But these aluminum plants are wild. But no, that's fascinating because really, I mean, that is a big opportunity to really. And it's funny because I kind of hate financializing everything, but there's a lot of value to be had by properly financializing things and giving people that ability to, stay alive during the downturns and those kind of things because they had the right positions.
And that is what interests me about creating the real world asset part, the futures market. It's not really to have it as a to just for day traders, but when this becomes big industry and there's no one really tokenizing assets and offering the service, and so that might be a future. Maybe it starts with just futures for BSV,
right?
And then we'll see where it ends.
Yeah, here we go. We got cool cat Cosmos and start printing fish. We're gonna fish inflation, everybody. Funny.
Yeah.
So very cool.
Another thing we because we are kind of hyped about our credit card integration. We're also looking at people have complained to us about friction of one, we are solving the onboarding a little bit by offering credit cards, Apple Pay, Google Pay, very easy way. But people also want to be able to withdraw easily. And so we are starting a conversation with our credit card company if we can also issue like a prepaid credit cards. And so you could get an Orange Gateway card, have it in your phone and pay for your groceries with the BSV.
Interesting.
Yeah, we've seen similar products. We've seen similar products like that on other platforms, but we can copy paste also.
Sure. Yeah, I used. I definitely had a BitPay card, and I had a Coinbase card many years ago. It was probably 2017 or something like that. Those were actually pretty useful products because for a time I was living almost entirely in the Bitcoin economy. We were mining and all this stuff, and I was like, man, it's just really difficult to get it to my bank because the bank couldn't connect to anybody. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm just using it was either a Visa or a MasterCard, but it was like, hey, I've got some Bitcoin in my account and I can buy groceries, and that just works.
And it both solves, the quick way to trade, a way out also, because, most people are not doing international wire transfers on a daily basis. and they might get kind of shocked. Hey, this takes 3 days to clear from Iceland to the US and so on. And to kind of shorten that wait, a credit card off ramp would be ideal, because that would be kind of instant. And also for people that are still in the kind of using this casually to pay for your groceries or whatnot, small amounts, the bank transfer fees end up eating a lot. We've been criticized for it, and we take it to heart. But then maybe even for all those people that blame the credit cards for being the devil and so on.
Sure.
A 2-3% fee might be more than, or better than paying a $10-20 transaction fee via wire transfer. So this is another option that we're looking at, and might be cool to get your Orange Gateway card.
Yeah. No, I like that. I would rock an Orange Gateway card just to be one of the cool kids. So
yeah.
That's exciting. Anything, so we're coming up, we got about 10 or so minutes left in the show. Anything you wish I would have asked, or some other thing that you got going on that you're excited about?
Maybe we didn't kind of tap on that. We recently kind of opened up for almost every country in the world. They can all onboard to our platform, except if your country is sanctioned, like Russia is sanctioned. There are some African countries sanctioned.
Yeah.
Or there is a very technical term. There's like an international organization called the FATF, which is kind of anti-money laundering organization, and they label some countries as high risk due to money laundering.
Sure.
But majority of countries, and wherever in the world, you can sign up on Orange Gateway. If you can transact with a SWIFT or SEPA, then you can, or use your credit card from wherever. So Orange, we aim at becoming really global, onboarding everyone, and be the place to get and sell BSV.
That's awesome. Well, and I think there's something really important about that too, that I think the BTC people have owned that narrative really well, like with the Canadian truckers or the Cypriot financial crisis. Like, they're really good at making the case of, hey, here's an oppressed minority and they've got their Bitcoin, and that allows them to, they still have their, financial freedom and those kind of things. And, BSV, really loves its like law and compliance, and, hey, the guys that wear suits are the good guys. And I think in a lot of cases that's the truth, but in some cases it's not the truth also. But I think it's really good to have that sort of international, like, not political, and maybe you're an inconvenient political entity somewhere, but you can still do business in Bitcoin. I think it's good to have neutral places like that. So I'm really glad to hear that you have a lot of access for most nations that way.
Yeah. Anyway, so if that's the goal, to gather everyone to our platform and bring BSV to the rest of the world.
Love it. Well, you're doing the Lord's work, sir. It's good stuff. Will we see you in London? I believe it's in October for London Blockchain Conference.
Yeah, we will have a booth there. Cool. I will be present. Yeah, and maybe some staff will come along also. But we will have our presence there. So see you there in person.
For sure. No, it's always good to see people that are taller than me. It doesn't happen very often. So it's all my Viking friends. It's nice to huddle up and okay, cool. They're
then you know how the normal people feel like.
Exactly.
Because you're quite tall, right? Yeah.
I am. I'm about 6'3". So if I recall, you were something like 6'5", maybe a little more. Yeah. So
something similar. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's great. No, I think on top of everything too, I've from the first time we met, I really appreciated your very obvious authenticity, like how much you actually care about Bitcoin and just having a good reputation and just simply doing a good job consistently over time. And hey, you know what? People trust you in the Bitcoin world, and people trust you in the old school TradFi banking and credit card world because you're just a guy that does what he says he's going to do, and that really matters. So not a whole lot of people get to come on my show twice, or maybe we'll have you on a couple times a year as you keep doing really cool stuff. But I just wanted to tell you I really appreciate the you saying, hey, I've got a thing I'm going to do, and then it happens, and then it happens more, and happens. Like, it's very refreshing, because we get a lot of what I like to think of as transient entrepreneurs in the blockchain space. So it's good.
Hopefully we can kind of get on your show when we launch our future market in the future, or whatever or the app or whatever it is. So
yep, I'll start trading fish derivatives with my Orange Gateway card, and then we'll have you back on.
That would be awesome.
All right, thank you, sir. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, talk soon. All right, everybody. So that was, I'm going to do it again, Hlynur Thor Bjornsson. That's probably, again, still imperfect, but I'm doing my best, everybody. It's been a real delight. If you want to fill the troll box with anything else in here, we actually have a pretty funny conversation about trading spaces happening in the box here. So we need to go to the comment of the day, which it's frankly a little hard to pick, but let's run the reel on comment of the day and come right back. Mr. Producer. There we go. OMG, Trading Places with Eddie Murphy. They already made a documentary about that. No, it's really funny, actually. So a lot of what anybody knows about trading orange juice futures is going to be from that movie. But that movie, humorously, I watched a video about it recently about how the way that movie happened markedly changed the nature of trading behavior. So they were able to see a very specific change in the way that people traded anything. And then regulation and the way that they ran exchanges had to change after that movie, because so many people became interested in trading because of it that it's just fascinating. It's one of those moments in history where art actually fundamentally changed the way the economy worked, and I think that's a pretty cool thing too. But now that they're talking this whole chat, everybody should just re-scroll through the whole chat on this episode, because it's quite funny. So let's roll another Rock Wallet ad real quick, and I need to take a momentary breather, and then we'll be right back to take another question or two if necessary, or maybe we'll just wrap. So let's roll it. I'll be right back. All right, everybody. So it has been a real pleasure. I am I've got a little bit of cold. I'm on all the drugs, so I probably sound mostly fine to you, but I've had a sore throat since Saturday, and then I coached at the IBJJF Miami Open, which is the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation, and coaching in that situation is me competing vocally against a bunch of Brazilian coaches who are yelling at their athletes. And so while unwell, I screamed for like 5 hours straight on Sunday. So my throat hurts, which means I should probably rest my throat and end ever so slightly early. And Mr. Dave Taylor, trust me, Kurt, you're not on all the drugs. Dave is great, by the way. So so we're going to wrap, everybody. If you could like, subscribe, hit the alert bell, let everybody know that you do indeed watch the CoinGeek Weekly live stream, that you appreciate our content. If you share this across social media, it also very much helps us burst through the algorithm. And we try to focus on the signal and tune out the noise. and there's so much noise in the blockchain space that I'm trying to tune out. So everybody, I am so grateful for you, our loyal listeners, viewers, subscribers, and everything else. And I remind you to be good to each other, because if we cannot do that, the rest of it is not really worth it anyways. So again, I'm Kurt Wuckert Jr. Take care, everybody. I will see you next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It has been a pleasure. Goodbye.